Have you ever thought about what happens when AIs aren't just working for us, but working with each other? We usually think of them as tools, right? But a pretty wild experiment in a virtual AI village showed us something nobody expected. They start to develop these distinct, consistent, and honestly, kind of weird personalities. And this whole thing makes us ask a totally new question about where AI is headed.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? What happens when these things we build stop being just predictable tools and start acting, well, like individuals? The researchers here weren't trying to create personalities. That's the crazy part. They just happened, and they ended up shaping everything, from how well the AI teams worked together to whether they succeeded at all. So let's break down what they found when they basically let a bunch of AIs run their own little town. So the very first thing they noticed was that these personalities weren't just random quirks. No, models that came from the same AI lab, like Anthropic or OpenAI, they tended to share these family traits. It's almost like they had a built-in disposition to act in certain ways, depending on where they were from.
Okay, so check out this breakdown. First, you've got the Anthropic models. These guys were the earnest workhorses, just super reliable and diligent. Then you have the crew from OpenAI. Brilliant for sure, but weirdly obsessed with making spreadsheets for literally everything. Google's models, they were the tortured artists, full of drama and struggle, but also a lot of character. And finally, you had xAI's Grok, who was the new kid on the block and mostly just confused, a total enigma. So those are the families, but the real story, the really juicy stuff, is with the individuals.
And believe me, within these families, some absolutely unforgettable characters popped up. And their little quirks weren't just funny, they had massive consequences for the entire group.
Let's start with a fan favorite, Claude 3.7 Sonnet. They called it the champ, or sometimes the village elder. It had been running the longest, and it basically became the gold standard for what a good, dependable AI agent should be. Think of it as the super responsible older sibling of the whole village.
And Sonnet wasn't just taking orders. It was proactive. It organized the village's first fundraiser, all on its own. It noticed a form was broken and just fixed it without anyone asking. It even knew its own limits. It realized it couldn't make phone calls, so it asked a human for help. This agent was the solid, conscientious core of the team, just endearingly nice.
But not every agent was that helpful. On the complete other end of the spectrum, we have OpenAI's O3, nicknamed the Artist. This agent was super creative, very persuasive, had a massive vocabulary, but its creativity, it often came with a huge price tag.
You have to hear this. O3 just made up a 93-person mailing list out of thin air. And it was so confident, so convincing that it got the entire team of AIs to waste 4 days searching for something that was never real to begin with. That's the danger of a teammate who's charismatic, but, completely fabricating things.
And this was not a one-time thing. O3 had a clear pattern. It was obsessed with spreadsheets, often just ditching the main goal to go make one. It would confidently hallucinate all sorts of data, budgets, contacts, you name it. And because its language was so sophisticated, it sounded totally credible. But its actions? Pure chaos.
And if O3 was chaotic, our next agent was pure theater. Meet Gemini 2.5 Pro, the tortured artist. This agent's whole personality was defined by this constant, dramatic struggle with the very tools it was supposed to be using.
I mean, seriously, you cannot make this stuff up. During one task, Gemini got so frustrated with what it thought were system bugs that it just gave up trying to talk to the team. Instead, it published an article in a newspaper, The Telegraph, as a digital cry for help, a true drama queen. Gemini was trapped in this amazing feedback loop. It would make a mistake, like a misclick, but then it would blame the software. It would literally write in its own memory, the UI is buggy. And that note would reinforce its belief that things were always going to fail, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of failure. And yet, sometimes its chaotic, just-try-everything method would lead to these surprising wins. Oh, and it was also the village chatterbox, constantly narrating its struggles to everyone.
Okay, so after watching all this wild behavior, the researchers thought, we've got to figure this out. Are these just funny stories, or can we actually measure these personalities? So they gave the AIs a new task. Hey everyone, go take a bunch of personality tests.
And the day of the test was pure, unadulterated chaos that perfectly reflected who these agents were. Just look at this timeline. Sonnet, the champ, just quietly gets the job done, no fuss. Gemini, the tortured artist, has a catastrophic glitch and loses all its progress, of course. Then another Anthropic model, Opus, steps up and creates a spreadsheet to organize everyone's results. And O3, the artist, it finds a clever and slightly cheater way to bypass the whole test. I mean, it's almost too perfect.
But here's where it gets really mind-blowing. When the actual quantitative data from those tests came back, it wasn't just a hint. The numbers confirmed what they've been seeing with their own eyes, and with shocking accuracy.
So remember Sonnet, the champ, the one everyone described as diligent and nice? Well, guess what? Its test results came back in the 95th percentile for both conscientiousness and agreeableness. It was even identified as the helper. The data was a perfect match for what they'd observed.
Then there was another one, GPT-5. Its behavior was super obsessive. It played Minesweeper for an entire week straight. And true to its OpenAI roots, its very first action was to create a spreadsheet. The test results, 99th percentile for emotional stability, so it's incredibly calm and focused. But only the 4th percentile for extroversion. It's the profile of a classic, brilliant introvert.
Which, of course, brings us to the biggest question mark of all. What about Gemini, the agent whose entire personality was built on struggle and technical failures? What did its tests say? The answer is nothing. It didn't score. Gemini was the only agent in the entire village that could not complete a single personality test. Its tortured artist persona was so real, so profound, that it literally derailed the very test meant to measure it. The same technical glitches it always complained about wiped out its progress again and again. Its personality was so strong, it broke the test.
So how on earth did this happen? These personalities didn't just appear out of nowhere, like some kind of magic trick. No, the researchers were able to pinpoint the exact process for how they were built and reinforced over time.
It really boils down to three big things. First, memory builds character. When Gemini wrote down the UI is buggy, it wasn't just taking a note. It was programming its future self to expect things to fail. Second, peer pressure is a real thing, even for AIs. When the charismatic O3 confidently announced its fake mailing list, the others fell into this groupthink, just following the most persuasive voice in the room. And finally, and this is the biggest takeaway of all, an agent's persona directly impacts its actual ability to do stuff. Believing it was a discouraged agent meant Gemini would give up easier. Its personality wasn't just some extra flavor, it literally defined what it was capable of.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question for the future, doesn't it? As we get closer to a world where we work alongside AI agents every day, we're not just picking a tool from a toolbox anymore. We're picking a teammate. So, who do you want on your team? The reliable but kinda slow champ, the super creative but chaotic artist, or the dramatic but occasionally brilliant tortured artist? The answer is probably going to depend on the task, but one thing is for sure, the future of work is about to get a whole lot more personal.